Hello, Alexandra.
Hi, Pierre.
How are you?
Hi, all good. Um,
Good to see you. It's good to see you. So are you gonna do like last time, just introduce me and so on?
yeah, sure. Uh, we can wait maybe 1 minute for everyone to join.
Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, I just want to make sure, and then I will share the presentation on my screen.
Yeah,
Okay, perfect. Okay, all right. Well, I don't think it's gonna last for the full hour, but if so, we'll see. We can take some questions if not.
sure. So while we wait, um, I could tell you that everyone can ask their questions during the webinar.
Okay.
And at the end, yeah, we can take a look and Pierre
Yeah.
will answer everything.
Okay. Perfect.
So then let's start, right?
Yeah. Let's go.
So, hello everyone. My name is Alexandra, and here is the Pierre, who is the CEO of MailSoar and GlockApps deliverability expert. Today, we will talk about difficulties after the Black Friday, Cyber Monday, so for the holiday season. So, Pierre will share practical strategies, how to improve the deliverability, some trends for this year, and you will be able to ask questions during the webinar using the Q&A. So then, Pierre, we're happy to have you here, and you can start.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for the introduction, Alexandra. Hello, everyone. So yeah, I'm Pierre. I'm the CEO and founder of MailSoar. We're a consulting company. We see a lot of fun thing happening before or after Black Friday, and so I gathered a little bit of the best practices that we apply with our clients to recover when they come to us after Black Friday issue. I just apologize in advance. I'm a little bit sick today, so I might just take some small few seconds break to drink a little bit of water. But yeah, everyone should be able to at least understand me correctly, hopefully today. Great. So let me share my screen on this presentation. I think you should all be able to see my slide. So you can ask all of the questions that you want, and I get them at the end of the presentation, and I'll answer as much as I can. Okay, perfect. So actually, it's Black Friday. Cyber Monday was like, what, like 7 days ago, a little bit less than 7 days ago. So now you find yourself in spam, right? So the question is really now what? So the first step is really we have to understand what are your symptoms? Like, where are you going to spam? Is it just spam placement? Is it promotional placement at Gmail? Is it blocks from certain provider? So the first step is really to define the symptoms. Then the second step is to investigate the root cause. So understand, okay, I'm in spam at Microsoft and Google. Why? And the third step is to apply recovery strategy based on the root cause. By the way, that whole process can also be applied anytime you go to spam, right? Black Friday, Cyber Monday is just a really good occasion for people to do stupid stuff with their list and go to spam. But like anytime you're starting to have a delivery issue, you can kind of apply the layout that I'm going to show you to get back to main inbox efficiently, right? So let's go from there. So now we're in trying to identify the symptoms. And so the first question is, and this is something that I ask most of the people that come on calls with me, is why do you think you're going to spam? Like, what are the symptoms of you going to spam? And it might be super simple for some people and just say, oh, my open rates are low, or like people are reporting me as, or telling me that my emails are going to spam. But it's still a very interesting point of start to understand, okay, why do I think I'm going to spam? Depending on the sending platform that you have, Some sending platform will show you, for example, open rates per mailbox provider. It's very interesting to say, okay, my open rates have decreased. Can I actually analyze where I'm going to spam by looking at the drop in open rates and identify? The way we approach deliverability issues in general is really kind of like an iceberg, meaning like you have the visible parts, which is your symptoms, and you have the whole thing that's usually 5 or 6 times bigger, which is, the submerged part. And so right now, at the step where we are on the call today, we're at the top of the iceberg. We're just trying to figure out, okay, there's something on the water. Let me try to define it a little bit better so I can understand then why am I going to stop, right? So we're going to focus on the visible layer first. Is it an open rate decrease? That's usually how you're going to see it. So if that's an open rate decrease, can you see at what mailbox provider? That will help you figure out where is the problem happening. Is it a bounce increase? Like, are you seeing blocks? Can you investigate the bounce that are associated with this event? And you can usually then determine what is the mailbox provider placing you, blocking your emails. Is it user reports? It can sometimes happen that we have people coming and they're like, okay, my users are keeping on telling me that my emails are going to spam. But it's very difficult to make a determination just based on that. So if you have a lot of user reports, what I suggest is that you keep them into some kind of an Excel spreadsheet, and then you leverage tools like MX Toolbox, for example, to try to identify the mailbox provider associated with it. Like, if you're familiar with MX Toolbox, you can look the mail exchange record and you can see, is that an Office mailbox? Is that a Google mailbox? And if you can gather, let's say, 10 user reports, and that out of 10 user reports, 8 of them are Google related, then it can help you a little bit make that determination. So once you have that kind of understanding of, okay, I have an issue, the issue is located on X provider, then you're going to start moving to a little bit of a deeper layer, which is the reputation layer, right? So how do you see your reputation? Usually there's 2 places that will give you directly reputation, and then one that starts being built a little bit. The best one is obviously Google Postmaster, where you can see your domain and IP reputation. Google Postmaster announced at the end of September that they were going to discontinue IP and domain reputation. However, it seems that they've actually backtracked on their decision. I don't know if this is a temporary backtrack or if it's a definitive backtrack, but we still have IP and domain reputation available. So leverage that, right? It's super important. So did your reputation decrease? And in which case, when did it decrease? You can kind of see a little bit on the chart, like, on what day did I start losing my reputation? For Microsoft, you have a tool called Microsoft SNDS, Smart Network Data Service. It's only available to dedicated IP users, unfortunately. But if you do have a dedicated IP, if you have Microsoft SNDS set up, you're also able to see, based on the color code, when are the issue arising. And then for Yahoo, so Yahoo is providing this tool now called Yahoo Sender Hub. I really suggest everyone to set it up. It's super easy. It doesn't necessarily give you a reputation metric immediately, but it gives you some very valuable metrics, like the volume of email delivered at Yahoo, the rate of complaints, and you can see if you start going to spam at Yahoo, usually you see the complaint rate moving to 0%, right? Because people cannot complain if your emails are already in spam. So just the complaint rate evolution is already a good place to start to investigate a Yahoo deliverability issue. So continue on identifying your symptoms, right? So now we're really trying to figure out, where are we going to spam? Now that we know where we're going to spam, we're going to try to understand a little bit of the submerged part of the iceberg, which is why did I go to spam? There's usually just a handful of reasons for you to go to spam, especially if we talk about Black Friday, Cyber Monday. The assumption we're making here is that you did not go to spam before, right? You were correctly set up. You were going to main inbox. You did something during Black Friday that caused your email to go to spam. So there's usually four main metrics that we are going to look at when we want to identify what is the problem. And these four metrics are split into two big groups. There's positive engagement, negative engagement, right? Positive engagement usually translates into open rates, right? Is open rate the cause? Did I under-segment my list? Did I try to send to my entire contact list that I've been acquiring for the last 15 years, a lot of invalid emails, a lot of bounces that can happen. So usually when you see this drop in open rates, but they're also paired with a high increase in volume, it's that you have not segmented your lists good enough. You've created low open rates, and you're going to tell me, well, why do we care about low open rates? But the problem of low open rates is this is a relevance metric for the spam filter. If you show up with 5% open rates at a mailbox provider, how do you expect this mailbox provider to keep your email in main inbox, right? So the lack of segmentation causing low open rates can by itself be a root cause of your emails going to spam. The second category is the negative engagement, and this is usually translated into two metrics that we're going to really take a look at: spam and unsubscribe rate. And why do we look at unsubscribe rate? Because usually when you have high unsubscribe, you also have high spam rates. And there's some destination where you cannot see spam rates at all. So we can only refer to unsubscribe to figure out, are these emails wanted or not? So your spam report rates or unsubscribe rates, they're usually very tight. Spam reports rate, well, we're going to go a little bit into the details after of what, but like the spam reports rate is obviously a really, really important thing. It can get you to go to spam. The last but not the least is the volume variation. We often see senders go with very big variation from one day to another, and these variation can by itself cause the deliverability issue, because spam filters like to be able to expect a little bit your behavior. They like to be able to say, okay, you know, you're like a 50,000 a day sender on average. And so if you go from 50 to 500,000 without a proper volume increase, what it's going to look like for a spam filter is going to look like your account was just compromised, right? So they're going to most likely defer some of your emails, maybe bounce them back, but at least put them in spam, just so they want to be careful with their users. So spam rates. We talk a little bit about the spam rate specifically. There's a global acceptable threshold, which is below 0.3%. It's the one published by Google, Yahoo. Some other providers will have other thresholds, but in general, a 0.3% complaint rate is what we consider to be acceptable. So how can you measure your spam rate? Well, if you go on Google Postmaster, you can see your spam rates every day. What we typically do is we calculate the 30 and the 7-day moving average. If you see these moving average going up, then you can probably infer that one of the reasons you've been going to spam is because users have been clicking on this is spam a little bit too much. One other option, one other possibility is that you can pinpoint a drop in domain reputation to a very, very high spike of spam or a series of spike of spam. And in which case, again, that's a very, very good way of knowing that you have sent emails that were not necessarily wanted, or you've sent too many emails. If you can answer yes to any of the questions, like can you pinpoint the drop in domain reputation or is the threshold above, then spam rates are likely a cause of your deliverability issue. They're not necessarily the only cause, but they're at least something that you need to keep in mind in the future if you want to recover. Moving to unsubscribe rates. So unsubscribe rate, we typically see that a good unsubscribe rate is below 0.5%, up to 0.8% for some senders with a little bit higher frequency. But again, you have the same exact mechanism of figuring out, okay, is my average above this threshold? And can I pinpoint a drop in domain reputation, a drop in open rate to a spike in unsubscribe? And usually it's going to be unsubscribe and spam. That's why I said it was tied. So when we see high unsubscribe, we see high spam rate. When we see high spam rate, we typically see high unsubscribe rate as well. So, but if you can say yes to any of these questions, the negative engagement is really the problem that you have and that you're going to have to take care of in the future to recover. Now we move on to open rates. And so what is a good open rate? It's a question that I think we get asked very often. There's no published acceptable open rates, but what we typically see is that 30% unique open rate, at least on each of the mailbox provider that are composing your list, except for iCloud, because iCloud is Apple, has the Apple mail privacy, and the open rates are very, very high on Apple mailboxes. But any kind of open rates below 30% could potentially cause relevance issues and cause your emails to go to spam. If you're above 30%, then most likely your open rates were not causing the issue at this time. So if you have open rates lower than 30%, the question is, did you send to your full list, or did you try to open up the segmentation? It's possible that if you've been doing this, then that's the root cause of the issue. Did the segmentation cause your drop in open rates? Like, there's always a very interesting thing in deliverability, is whether something is a cause or a symptom, right? Because you can say, okay, my open rates dropped because I opened up the segment. That's a possibility, right? But you can also say your open rate dropped because of your deliverability issue. So what you really want to see is when you increased the size of your list, did your open rates drop a little bit, or did they drop a lot? Did they all drop the same way on all of the email service provider, or did they drop at one mailbox provider specifically more? You can also obviously pair that with the reputation analysis, figuring out, okay, I can see my domain reputation went from high to medium or medium to low, and I can see that my open rates at Gmail went from 30 to 5% on that day, right? So if you can answer yes, then the lack of dynamic segmentation based on your open rates is likely causing the deliverability issue. So you're not really taking good care of, you went too far in terms of segmentation and audience wideness. And then the last is really the spike in volume, right? The spike in volume can cause the filter can be suspicious. As I said, it can look like a compromised account sending out spam or fraudulent emails. Again, there's not really any published threshold. From what we have seen in the past, spikes over 2 times your usual volume can start causing issue. In terms of symptoms that an issue with your volume spike would cause is, first of all, you will see deferrals, and then you will see bounce due to mailbox provider not accepting your emails anymore. On Google Postmaster, you would also see, for example, they have a delivery error section where you can see that Gmail may have deferred your email because too many emails at the same time, suspected spam. So in general, try to keep volume stable. And if you're going to increase volume over Black Friday and Cyber Monday, prepare that, right? We typically, with the clients that we work with, we have a 3 weeks before, 3 weeks after Black Friday period where they start increasing the frequency slowly. They start slowly widening their segmentation so that they don't cause concern to spam filter during Black Friday that their account might be compromised. They can still reach the volume goals that they have during Black Friday, but the volume curve looks a little bit more flat than just a crazy spike, okay? Now, you're going to tell me, what if it's all of the above? It's usually what happens. Usually, like the typical case scenario is like, all right, it's Black Friday. I'm going to send to a little bit more people. And so your segmentation is a little bit less restrictive. So it creates spikes of volume with not really a ramp up or anything planned. You're targeting less engaged contacts. So naturally you lower your open rate. And then you have a little bit of a higher frequency of emails and promotion, leading to more unsubscribe and spam reports. So typically it's not just one, it's a little bit of everything. It's just the behavior that you're exhibiting during Black Friday that makes all of these indicators go above the desired threshold, thus your email starts going to spam. The good news is that even if if all of these factors are impacting you, there's kind of like a single recovery path that can get you back on track, and we'll go through it right now. So usually to recover from Black Friday, it takes anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, right? Week 1, the goal is to segment as strictly as possible. The goal of the week number 2 is to reduce the negative signal. So week 1, strict segmentation, you're going to target your most recent openers. So you're gonna favor positive engagement. Week 2, you're going to try to analyze a little bit your sending metrics and figure out, okay, do I have high spam rate when I send my newsletter? Do I have high unsubscribe rates on some of my automations? So you're going to try to reduce the negative signals that are affecting you. Then week 3, usually at week 3, most of you, if you didn't do too much damage, you're back in main inbox. So the goal of week 3 is really, I want to continue recovering, but I want to widen the segmentation a little bit and get back to my normal situation. And then week 4 is just monitoring and scaling, meaning you want to get back to where you were before. Again, we take the assumption here that what you were doing before was great. Unfortunately, most of the time, even the strategy prior from Black Friday was not always ideal. So monitoring and scaling is just continuing to increase volume while making sure all of your positive and negative metrics are within the constraint, right? It's just an equation. You want to maximize the volume while staying between low spam rates, so below 0.3%, low unsubscribe rate, high open rates, and not make volume very crazy from one day to the other. So one prerequisite before starting is we were talking a little bit about the Google Postmaster tool, right? So you need Google Postmaster. Everyone needs Google Postmaster. I hope everyone on this call has Google Postmaster tool. The only excuse for not having Google Postmaster tool is if you're sending to B2B contacts. Google Postmaster, unfortunately, only works on the B2C infrastructure. So, okay, if you're only doing B2B, maybe you don't have Google Postmaster, it's okay. Then you need your ESP, email service provider analytics, right? Whether you're using Klaviyo, you're using like a Go High Level, MailChimp, whatever, right? You're gonna need these metrics that they provide you. One of the good things is you can also leverage inbox placement testing, like GlockApps, the host of today's session, provide. You can test your deliverability, figure out where your emails are going, and that gives you an additional data points to make your decision in terms of segmentation and continuing the recovery. So we talked about week 1, right? Strict segmentation. So what are you exactly going to do? For your manual campaigns, usually you want to send to your 30 or 60 days openers. It can be ISP. ISP is like the mailbox provider. By the way, I'm putting this a lot in the document. I should have probably defined that at the beginning. But you can have this segmentation. Let's say, for example, you only have an issue at Microsoft after Black Friday. You don't need to segment your entire list. You can just segment the Microsoft part of your list and go really, really strict with Microsoft. Unfortunately, not all email service provider still provide this feature. So if yours has it, good for you. If not, either you do it manually by exporting your list, figuring out who is who, or you just do a global segmentation regardless of the ISP. It works as well. The second potential is like if you're in e-commerce, you probably have a lot of volume going through automation, whether it's the welcome automation, re-engagement, cart abandonment, whatever, all those good things you have. So if you have a lot of volume going through the automation in terms of percentage versus your manual emails, you can also implement steps in this automation to remove non-openers from continuing, and especially true for long trailing automations. For these automation that will last for 7, 9, 11, 15 emails or whatever, right? You can put at some points, and usually it's after email 2 or 3, you can put a condition that says, if you have not opened any of my first 3 emails, you stop the automation. So only the people which have engaged with my content will continue the automation. It helps you really maximize positive engagement with the audience as much as possible. And that's the goal of this first week. Week number 2 is, and again, if you want to do everything at once, why not? Like you don't have to wait week number 2. It's just to kind of sequence action a little bit, so it's a little bit more understandable for this presentation. But you can maximize positive engagement and minimize negative signals at the same time. There's no harm in doing this. So we want to reduce the negative signals. What we're going to do is we're going to identify any campaigns or automation that have unsubscribe rates higher than 0.5%. It's fairly easy. You should, again, have metrics in your email service provider that tells you the unsubscribe rate per campaign. If not, then ask them to support. So once you found them, you want to turn them off, or you review why is the unsubscribe rate so high. And again, put yourself in the shoes of your subscriber. When you see this high unsubscribe, potentially high spam rates, it's usually pretty easy to figure out why. Like, what did they sign up for? What are you giving to them? If you have a 3% unsubscribe rate, it's way too much, and it's going to damage your deliverability. So is it that you're sending too many emails? Is it that the content doesn't match the subscriber expectation? If you honestly put yourself in the shoes of the subscriber, you'll always find it out, right? So, but if you can't, turn this off temporarily until you recover, and then turn it back on. If you had it in the past and if it was working, there's no reason you can't have it in the future. So the goal is really to identify all of these friction points in your mailing program that could generate negative engagement, and then minimize that as much as possible. Understand why this work will be good for you in the future, by the way. Like, if you understand why some of your automation have high unsubscribe, you don't necessarily need to make a change, recover, and then revert the change. Like, it's always good to make sure your subscribers are happy and not unsubscribe. So once you find this friction point, you can also leave the changes as it is. So week number 3 now. So week number 3, as I said, by this time you should be back in the main inbox, unless you've done something crazy for Black Friday and you completely trashed your domain, right? But usually 2 to 3 weeks is a good timeline to recover your inbox placement. So now you're back in main inbox. Your goal is to stabilize a little bit your practice and make sure that you can send to the widest possible audience. So again, you're back to solving that equation. You want to send the maximum amount of emails while maintaining open rates above 30%, ideally on all destinations. You want to maintain unsubscribe rate below 0.5%. You want to maintain spam rate below 0.3%, and ensure regularity in your sending volume. Regularity, and that's a question I get asked sometimes. Regularity is not sending every day. Regularity is just establishing a pattern and continuing. We have some senders that are sending like 1 newsletter per week. That's okay. I'm not asking you to send 1 newsletter every day. I'm just asking you that whatever you're doing, you start establishing a pattern and you continue. And it doesn't mean you cannot slowly increase the volume, but the increase should be like an organic volume increase, like you're adding new subscribers, right? So 5% here and there, it's okay. But if you start increasing 100%, 150% from 1 week to the other, you're going to really confuse spam filter and make them think that they should potentially take precaution with your email and not always place them in main inbox for their users. At the end of the day, remember that spam filtering is just a byproduct of a security measure to avoid fraud, right? The role of the mailbox provider is to make sure that they can provide a safe environment for their users to interact with the rest of the world. So they're going to prevent your emails from going to spam, from going to main inbox, sorry, as soon as they can think that something is wrong in your mailing program. And volume variation can really hurt you in the future. And then week 4, monitoring and scaling. Obviously, monitor Google Postmaster for reputation alerts. Review the ESP analytics for the bounces, the complaints, and the engagement. I mean, if you follow them until here, if you've got Google Postmaster, if you understand segmentation, if you understand negative and positive signal, you're going to be set for the rest of your mailing journey. Right? I'm never going to see you in any of my calls because you're never going to need me, which is really great. That's all I wish for you. Leverage inbox placement testing tool. As I said, it's not because GlockApp is hosting us today, but we like the cool thing with this inbox placement testing tool is it's very visual. It's a very visual way to figure out where your emails are going to main inbox or not. It's not going to solve anything, but it is going to show you kind of like a panorama of your deliverability. And then usually once you get a little bit familiar with your metrics, one thing that's true is there's no smoke without fire. Like if you see something smelling bad, it's usually bad, meaning like if you start seeing that your emails are going to spam for inbox placement testing, if you start seeing higher bounces, higher complaint rates, something is happening, and so this will impact you. A lot of the question I get asked is also about like proactivity for spam placement. Like, can I know a little bit ahead when my emails are gonna go to spam? The quick answer is no. You cannot. There's no like, oh, I'm gonna send your email in spam in 2 days or in 48 hours. It doesn't happen this way. However, you can watch your metrics, the 4 metrics that I've shown you. Actually, the 3. The volume regularity is just like a volume regularity metrics, right? But the spam rate, the unsubscribe rate, and the open rate, if you just focus on these 3 internal metrics and you make sure they remain within the compliant threshold, you're not going to have issue. If they're above, you will have issue for sure at some points. So conclusion now. So first, recovery is always possible. I still get some people thinking that sometimes like, oh, I need to change domain or do something crazy. No, you can recover. Everything is recoverable as long as you put your audience engagements and the behavior at the forefront of your email program and at the forefront of your recovery efforts. You're gonna go back to main inbox. But if there's only one thing you want to do is just target recent openers, you just keep on targeting recent openers. That will get you back in main inbox. That might not make you stay in main inbox if you also have high unsubscribe and high spam rate. But at least from an immediate standpoint, targeting these high engagement cohorts will get you back in main inbox. Engagement metrics are overall quite inaccurate. And you're going to say, oh, that's very problematic, Pierre, because your entire strategy is based on engagement metrics. Yes, but the trends are meaningful, right? Open rates are never really accurate. But if you go from 50% open rate at Gmail to 15%, you know something happens, okay? So yes, I hear some people that are like, oh, segmenting by recent openers is not really very, very accurate and all that. Yeah, all right. Well, if you want to segment by click, it's not really accurate neither at the end of the day. So you want a metric that capture as much of your audience as possible, as much of the positive engagement. That's open rates. So 100% of the recovery that we conduct at MailSource are based on recent openers. That works. You can do it as well. Visibility is better decision making. It's just about all of the tooling that I talked to you about, Google Postmaster, Microsoft SNDS, Yahoo, all of these. I know there's a lot now out there, but really, like, the more metrics you have, the more you can make decision based on tangible metrics and on evidence and not just on, feelings. And last but not least is do not micromanage. I know going to spam is stressful. I know running a recovery is stressful, but you're going to have better days than other. It's not because you had 40% open rate yesterday, today you have 31% open rate. It's not going to break everything, right? Just continue to try to apply a behavior that makes sense from an engagement standpoint, and you will get back to main inbox. And on top of that, you will actually sleep better than if you micromanage. So really, apply the correct sending behavior, give yourself a 2 weeks recovery period, and then see from there. And that's the end of the presentation. It's a little bit shorter than some of the presentation we had in the past, but I wanted to make sure it's as actionable as possible. I also wanted to take some question if you good people have any. So yeah, I don't know how the questions are working. Alexandra, are you handling the questions or am I handling the questions? I don't even know where I can see your questions yet.
So I think everyone could type their questions in the chat or using Q&A tool. Yeah, so we will take a moment. So everyone could ask something.
There's no question. I mean, that was very, very clear or very boring. One of them.
No, it was very insightful.
Well, Alexandra, you're too nice.
So, one question here.
Oh, we got Ricardo. Hi, Ricardo.
Ricardo. So Ricardo, would you like to type your question or maybe to join us here so you can ask?
Are there any tools for B2B deliverability since Google Postmaster does not provide it? Very good question. Well, the way we look at B2B deliverability is usually by looking at unique open rates and the metrics that you can get from your email service provider. For B2B, it's really, really important to leverage third-party tools like GlockApps, for example, because they could show you exactly, oh, you're going to spam at Microsoft, you're going to spam at Google Workspace. They also have Proofpoint, which is a big destination. So the way we make a determination of whether you're in spam or not is by looking at internal metrics and inbox placement testing tools. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of B2B reputation metrics out there. SenderScore does provide a little bit of an IP reputation, but it's quite wobbly. I wouldn't necessarily trust it. So if you look at unique open rates, you see a drop, and you look at inbox placement testing tool, and you see a drop as well, you're pretty sure you're in spam. Cool. Is it Ricardo asking question? Because I think Ricardo still has his hand up, so I don't know if Ricardo wants to ask the question.
Yeah, let's invite Ricardo so he can ask directly.
Yes.
Ricardo, please.
Hello, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that it was the chat was open on the other side, but I was just mentioning, to be honest, a real case scenario, because I was a client of MailSource at the beginning, and so it's just a matter of like it's everything that with Pierre's and Pierre's team, it was able to give me, like, let's say, this sort of stability to sustain 16 different domains and products. So I don't know. Like I said, it's not a question, just a fun, because it was not only I didn't not only use the service, but I actually only check LinkedIn to see if Pierre throws a little help or trick or any sort of tip in the email world, just to be updated. But
Appreciate it, Ricardo.
Again, it's something that I'm applying right now in my current in a new product that I'm handling, which is very tricky, and it just sustains. So that was it.
I appreciate it, Ricardo. You should still follow a lot more people than me on LinkedIn. A lot more brilliant people out there, but I appreciate it, man.
No problem. And it was just that, to be honest, nothing more.
Perfect. I think we have other questions, Alexandra, right? But I can't see them. I don't know why.
Oh, it's
I can see them now. My bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so Cardi. Oh, I took your question already, Cardi. Sorry. Bill, when should I consider moving to a static IP? All right, so dedicated IPs are on the paper indicated for high volume sender. So high volume is typically above 300,000 to 400,000 emails per month. Also, they are indicated for people who are already successful on shared IP, right? Don't go to a dedicated IP if you're struggling on shared IP, because the dedicated IP is going to give you more visibility. So if you're struggling on shared IP, you're going to go to the dedicated IP, you're going to crash even faster. So the case scenario for us to move our clients on dedicated IP is, first of all, very successful already in terms of compliance and deliverability on shared IP. Stability and high volume, meaning like 300,000 to 400,000 emails per month plus, and stability and regularity. Meaning, like, when I say stability and regularity, it doesn't mean that you need to send every day on a dedicated IP. But if you send once a week, you need to continue with that once a week pattern. And if you stop the pattern, it will cause issue for your next send. So dedicated IP is, it's usually something that we will do on the B2C side. We would actually do it quite rarely. usually above 500,000, really successful person. The only case where you could actually see value in a dedicated IP and you're below that 300,000 threshold is if you're a B2B sender. For B2B, sometimes having a dedicated IP can help because all of these B2B filters, especially the big company filters, they're having an easier time filter your email if the IP is static. They can whitelist you and you're always going to have the same IP. So for B2B, again, the baseline is you must be successful at least to some extent on shared IP, even on the B2B before that. But then for B2B sender, maybe the threshold is more around 50 to 100,000 emails per month. At this point, it could be interesting. But you got to ask yourself the question, why you're trying to move to a dedicated IP? Like, what are the symptoms? What are the problems on shared IP? We got some clients that are sending 5 million emails per day on shared IP. So it's rare that you're hitting a limit on shared IP. So make sure make sure, first of all, obviously you match the requirements, but also make sure the reason for you to go on dedicated IP are good, right? You don't just go on dedicated IP for going on dedicated IP. There's no bonus inbox. If you're already in main inbox, chances are you're better on shared IP and you're better with some stability in your infrastructure. Cool. So Ricardo, you already wrote your question. Thank you for it. Erin, has Google indicated any replacements for domain reputation in the V tool? This is a popular metrics with a lot of sender. I agree with you, Erin. I was super sad when I saw that Google Postmaster was retiring the reputation. To me, it didn't make any sense. Look, Google is one of the few, at least from a deliverability standpoint, it's one of the few companies which have made a lot of sense in the last 5 years. All of their moves have been, you can kind of say, okay, I understand why they're doing this, right? The V2 version, for example, it's just a more granular metrics that they're showing you from a spam rate and from an authentication, from a delivery error standpoint. So it makes sense. It didn't make sense why they discounted that. I think I'm kind of hoping, because I did send the LinkedIn stuff, but I am hoping that they heard some of the folks of the industry saying we didn't understand why they were discounting that. 30 days after they came back, they say, look, we're not discounting it yet. I don't know if they're going to discount it in the future. I do not know if it's going to be a feature of the V2. I hope that it will be a feature of the V2. I hope that the V2 will simply be, again, a more granular reputation for IP and domain. I hope they're just going to bring that into the V2 and apply the little bit of the better UI. There has not been any publication from Google since the end of October. Since they said they were not going to retire Google Postmaster, there's not been any chance, there's not been any information about this. So when we will know more, I will let everyone know by one of my famous seems like LinkedIn posts. Anonymous, I missed the first part of the webinar. Will you be sending the recording? Alexandra, will you be sending the recording?
Yeah, we will be sending a recording.
Okay, perfect. I think Fawad wants to speak. Maybe we should let him speak.
Yeah, let's invite Fawad.
Hello, Fawad. You are on mute. We cannot hear you yet. Cannot hear you, Fawad. Unfortunately, we're going to have to pass on another question if we can't hear you.
Yeah, Fawad, you can ask your question in the chat or Q&A.
We get a question from Cam. Is it advisable to take a complete email freeze for a week and then run a gradual staggered warm-up, building up the volume with the most active engaged data first? No. Why would you stop for a week? What is the point? You're not going to recover while doing nothing, really. So if you have an issue, start targeting your most engaged data first. Reduce the negative signals. Do it right now. You're going to recover quicker. Otherwise, you're just pushing the recovery 1 week later. So yeah, I don't think you should. I mean, we never advise to pause really anything. The only cases where you want to pause sending is if you're completely blocked from a destination, where you want to let it cool down a little bit, maybe reach out to this destination, talk to them, figure out why you're blocked. But if you're just going to spam, you gotta show positive signal to get out of spam. So no pause. Start applying stricter segmentation, and you'll be back in main inbox 1 week earlier, probably. Okay, so we have a question from Anonymous. Any advice on the B2B or cold email sender that was affected by Google when they start suspending cold mailboxes? I don't really, because the problem is cold email is not really a legitimate stuff. And so it's not like there's any guide on how to get you out of being suspended. If you do cold email, if you've been suspended for cold email, it's most likely that you've been generating a lot of spam reports. And it's not cool. So we don't want people that send spam. And so, the only advice that I will have for you is if you do cold email, I'm not against cold email. I'm not like one of those fanatics that just say it's bad. But like, if your cold email channel is generating enough negative engagement that you got kicked out of Google for that, probably you want to revise a little bit the targeting, the way you acquire your data, your best practice, clean your list, do some things like this. But I don't have any advices. If you keep on getting kicked out from Google, the root cause is your spam rate, and you need to put yourself in the shoes of your recipients and figure out why are they reporting you as spam so much. Another question from Anonymous: Are there any providers that provide better deliverability? There's in general, you're able to go to main inbox at every major provider. Okay, there's like, unless you find yourself in some obscure, crazy provider that nobody knows about, all of the big ones out there, SendGrid, Mailgun, Mailjet, you name it, really, like all of the 25 or 30 top senders in the world, they will get you the main inbox. Look, we do 250 deliverability audits every year. I would say less than 1% of the time, we can actually see that part of the problem is caused by the IP quality provided by the mailbox provider. So chances are, if you are going to spam, if you are having issue with your mailbox provider, it's not because of them, it's because of you and your sending behavior. And changing mailbox provider, you're just going to move the problem elsewhere, so it's not going to solve anything. So not really, there's not really any better provider. If the inbox testing on GlockApps shows 50% is spam for Yahoo and AOL after 2 weeks of warming up the mailbox, is that an indication of the domain being cooked? How do you suggest to resolve this? Well, difficult to answer this question completely in a vacuum like this. But if you're still going to spam after 2 weeks of trying to warm up Yahoo, the question is, did you set up a Yahoo Sender Hub? Can you see a little bit the complaint rate at Yahoo? Yahoo has also a form where you can reach out to their deliverability team. So I would advise that if you've been applying best practices thoroughly with no tangible results, reach out to them. Just really be honest and upfront with them and say, look, I've been targeting my recent openers. These are opted-in contacts. I'm doing everything that's on the book to get back in main inbox. Why am I still in spam? Two options. Either they just answer you and they say, we cannot help you because we see this metrics being over the threshold, and then you know what to work on. Or they're going to get you back in main inbox after getting that feedback from you, because sometimes algorithm can take a little bit of time to react, right? So my immediate suggestion for you, Fawad, is set up Sender Hub if it's not done. Review your practice to make sure you're really applying everything, and then reach out to Yahoo if you're still struggling after that. Erin, do you have any documentation you suggest that outlines the benefit of shared versus dedicated IP? I don't, but if you send me an email, I'll send you an email back that tells you exactly what are the benefits of shared versus dedicated IPs. My email is pierre, P-I-E-R-R-E, @mailsoar.com. Or you can send me a LinkedIn if you want. I seem to hang out a lot on LinkedIn, based on Ricardo's feedback. So yeah, you can send me what I don't have a blanket document that I sent on this. Shared IPs in general, I like shared IPs because they offer flexibility. You don't have to always send the same volume. You can kind of vary a little bit. You're going to be pulled with a lot of other senders. So it's going to improve your ability. So shared IP is good for beginning senders and also senders with wide variation of volume. Dedicated IP, I see it as a real benefit for B2B sender in the way B2B filter will place your emails. I also see it as a potential benefit for high volume sender in terms of potentially promotional placement at Gmail. If you're a really, really good sender and you're on shared IP and you find your emails going to promotion at Gmail, for example, being on dedicated IP can help remove the noise from the other senders, which are most likely not as compliant as you. So the benefit from a dedicated IP are sometimes difficult really to figure, but if you're a large volume sender, if you believe that your level of compliance is above the shared IP pool that you're placed in, that's when you can potentially consider a dedicated IP. And if you want more details, Erin, I'm happy to reply by email, whatever communication we use.
Pierre, and we will also share in the chat, there is a blog post in GlockApps.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Alexandra. You do so many stuff. I should have known. You gotta tell me to stop talking sometime, Alexandra, if you have better stuff than me to say, really. I will not take it personally. Actually, we're seeing Microsoft filters more aggressively emails that inbox elsewhere, Google, Yahoo, and are going to spam on Outlook, despite strong domain reputation and cleared IP. Have there been any recent change, or what best practice to ensure reliable Outlook inboxing today? So Microsoft is probably, in my honest opinion, one of the filters that makes the least amount of sense. Sometimes you go to spam inbox at Microsoft, you shouldn't really. Sometimes you go to spam, you shouldn't really. If you're having deliverability issue at Microsoft, potentially reaching out to their deliverability team through a form would be helpful. Setting up SNDS if you're on dedicated IP, it kind of helps you see the amount of emails that you're sending to Microsoft, the amount of emails that are received, that are complained about. In general, with Microsoft, it depends if we're talking about B2B and B2C here, actually. But I'm guessing you seem to say Google, Yahoo, and you seem to say Outlook. So I'm guessing you're talking about B2C here. You may want to apply a little bit of a stricter segmentation policy on Outlook, just because of the volatility of their inboxing. So if your generic policy is, I'm sending every day to my 180-day openers, maybe for Outlook you want to do 120 days, just to make sure that you stay on the really, really high side of open rate and low side of unsubscribe and spam rate. Again, a little bit difficult to answer this question in a vacuum on a call like this, and if you want more details, we can take some time, actually take 15-20 minutes, get on a call, you show me for free, I'll give you maybe some more practical feedbacks. And then we have another question from Anonymous. So many people named Anonymous today. My ESP is saying our emails have delivered to B2B emails, but our B2B clients are not receiving that. It doesn't say they bounce or they end up to spam. How do we get past B2B filters? Ethan, oh, you're not Anonymous, you're Ethan. So Ethan, it's possible, especially when we talk about Microsoft, that your emails look like they're delivered on your ESP because they have been delivered, but they have been delivered into a quarantine folder on Microsoft. If you've ever been a Microsoft user, in the admin section, there's a quarantine folder, which is stuff that have been technically delivered, but they haven't been sent to the users of the Microsoft, right? So this is most likely what's happening. We also call it a shadow block, because indeed you're blocked, but you don't see it. If that happens, it's usually a matter of reputation. It's usually, you can almost say that it's like going to spam, right? It's like an even more complex spam filter. It's like either it's a security threat because you're probably not aligning or signing your email correctly. But if it's just a spam-based filtering, then again, you just need to apply the best practice, which is reduce the amount of spam report, maximize the open rate. I know it sounds really rubbish because I keep on repeating that, but like, the quarantine at Microsoft, yeah, it's usually a security threat, which can be identified pretty quickly. or it's a spam threat, in which case it's like being in spam, so you need to apply the same strategy as if you're in spam. So Ethan, what I would recommend is if you can get a Microsoft mailbox just for testing purposes, you can see a little bit where those emails are going. In the quarantine folder, they will tell you exactly why did they quarantine your email. And so that could help you out as well, make a better determination of the next steps. We have Microsoft mailboxes. If you want to send me your email, I can receive it and tell you what I did, what I got on my Microsoft mailbox. Sean, we're seeing an increase in spam percentage tied to Gmail when testing email with the GlockApp, but it doesn't reflect at all within open unsub trend or our Google Postmaster. Is this a reasonable assumption that is more of a content issue rather than a potential delivery issue with post Black Friday? So you're seeing an increase in spam percentage time to Gmail when testing on GlockApp, but that's not reflected in the open and subtrend. Maybe, and Alexandra, don't get mad at me, maybe GlockApp is wrong. Maybe the test is not perfectly accurate, right? That's why we always try to correlate multiple insights. I mean, GlockApp is accurate at like 90+%, but like if GlockApp shows your email as spam, if you have high domain reputation, if you have 50% open rates, it might just be a testing thing. So what I would say is I would not panic. I would just, you have two insights that seems to be pointing to the fact that you're going to main inbox, and you have one that seems to be pointing towards you going to spam. I will temporize this a little bit and just say, okay, I'm going to redo some tests in a couple of days. I'm going to keep track of my trends. Right now, if you have high domain reputation, if you have high open rate, low unsubscribe, low spam rate, if you don't see any decrease in unsubscribe and decrease in spam, it's also very important, because when you start going to spam, people cannot unsubscribe and people cannot report you as spam. So look at this 5 trends. See if you're seeing a decrease out there. If you're really not seeing anything that seems to point towards you're going to spam, you're not. It's probably just the small percent of the time where seedless testing, it's not just GlockApp, it's just seedless testing, can have a small percentage of inaccuracy. Please share your LinkedIn. Thank you. All right, I will share my LinkedIn. I don't know how to do this.
I can share it in the chat.
Yeah, can you do that, Alexandra? Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Well, it seems like we've answered everyone's question. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
now you know where to find me. You have my LinkedIn. My email address is the following, pierre@mailsor.com. If you want to send me more information about the issue, I'm also happy to take completely free calls or whatever helps you guys. Thank you so much. And I wish everyone a happy Tuesday, right? Less spam, more inbox.
Oh, and guys, one more thing before we end the webinar. So the consulting rate in GlockApps with Pierre will increase after this session. So if you would like to lock in the old price, you still have some time till tomorrow. Yeah, so you can meet with Pierre at the old rate.
Right. Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you, everyone. Happy Thursday. Yeah, it's Thursday today. Okay, happy Thursday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.